listening to a proud member of the Dice Tower Network, dedicated to bringing podcasters together for the greater good of gaming. It's sort of like Voltron, but with better lip syncing. Find out more at dicetowernetwork.com.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, a podcast about gamers and the insane fun we have at the table together. This is Anthony.
This is Chris.
This is Daniel. And this is Drew.
Welcome to episode 45, everybody. This week we're talking about our top 10 games that are as damaging and dangerous as Ouija.
Spooky.
So we thought it was kind of funny that a board game movie finally cracked the box office, and it happened to be horrible. So we're gonna run through a top 10 list of games that are just as dangerous, if not more so.
And if you think Ouija is a scary, dangerous game for your family and friends, we're gonna give you 10 more that are far more frightening, horrifying, and murderous.
You will have to watch your backs. 10 games that are much more effective at getting you to contact dark powers, specifically the darkness within yourself.
And this is not a Halloween episode, so
be warned.
All right, but before we get to that, we're going to dive right in, and Drew's got some interesting stories for us.
Yeah, some more to shout from the tabletop, some good news, interesting news. It seems like board games are being taken really seriously from people I wouldn't have expected. There's this magazine periodical called Foreign Policy. Political wonks know it. It's very serious. It's grave about dealing with world issues. They just recently, early in October, had an article about, well, it's entitled Yahtzee Meets the Hot Zone. And it's all about pandemic in the age of Ebola. I mean, we've known this game for years, and now people are discovering, wait, this predicted the Ebola outbreak. It didn't, obviously, but we talked about this last week when we were talking about pandemic contagion, that it definitely triggers thoughts of what's been going on in the real world. And so this article in Foreign Policy is very extensive. The article even is subtitled, The Nightmarish Ebola Board Game That's Starting to Look All Too Real. I don't know how anybody could take it that seriously. Another way they described it is Monopoly meets the Andromeda strain.
Wow.
So, obviously, the CDC, WHO, they're not using this game to train for this, but I think it's something that Z-Man can capitalize on if they wanted to. Like, hey, everyone's talking about Ebola. Buy Pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too, is when I first heard about Pandemic, I just knew it was a game about diseases destroying the world. I didn't realize you were trying to stop them. So people might see that and be like, well, that's insensitive. But the game itself is about how to work together to stop a disease. Yeah. It's a good thing.
It's about what public health officials do every single day, right?
Yeah.
They had a great summary of the game, and that was one of the obvious points that they brought out, that it's a cooperative. It seemed like they finally discovered cooperative games, these political wonks. They didn't know they existed.
Well, cooperative anything in politics, right?
Yeah. So that was encouraging to them, that, yeah, the world needs to come together and cooperate. It's something that the United States is not really doing with the Ebola outbreak. It's like they want to build a wall between the U.S. and Africa and keep them out. Yet, as pandemic shows, we got to get everyone together to solve these things. It's a good summary. They interview Matt Laycock about him developing the game. And I always got a kick out of staged photos. And these are particular. The picture shows 5 little meeples all gathered like in the same part of the board, which, first of all, you can only have 4 people in the game. And they had 5, and they're all in the same place, and there aren't any infection cubes around. You can tell that the picture was staged by somebody who has no idea how to play.
Could tell Drew's a board game geek. That's what you can tell.
Like, what's wrong with this picture? I love that. On the opposite end of the credibility spectrum, The Guardian had an article about Ticket to Ride called All Aboard, How Ticket to Ride Helped Save Tabletop Gaming. Now, I'm not going to say anything about the article except for the fact that the writer of it got an expenses-paid trip to the 10th anniversary party in Paris for an exclusive interview with creator Alan Moon. So to him, Ticket to Ride helped save tabletop gaming. I have a question. I mean, it's true that it's been a big help to the board game industry, but which do you think has had a bigger impact on the health of the industry, Ticket to Ride or Catan? I mean, did Catan? Some people would say Catan saved it.
It's hard to tell though, because the trajectory that we're currently on started with Ticket to Ride. It was around that time, 2004, 2005, when it just took off. Catan was 10 years before that, and the board game industry, while it was growing then, wasn't like on this straight up trajectory that we're currently on. So I don't know if it's not causation necessarily, but there's definitely a correlation between the two. Like, did it cause the boom? Probably not, but it is like, look at the quality of production of that game. So that's new.
It's critical mass. It's not just one game, but if you get enough strong games together, then suddenly...
Yeah, Catan was, gave us a strong foundation in which to build from. I don't know if Ticket to Ride would have had the legs unless Catan was, here is a legitimate hobby board game that's from Europe that everyone can play. It's a gateway game. It's accessible. You can rest your hat on this game, and then like, we're all good. We have credibility. Great. Here's Ticket to Ride. Wow. Now we can kind of take off. But I don't think without Catan, I don't think if Catan never existed, I think as great as Ticket to Ride is, it might have gotten lost in some respects. At least in the hobby game market.
It could be the combination of those two and a couple other strong games because what we needed here to happen was the big box retailers to realize, hey, we could make money off these games.
Sure.
But there'd have to be a critical mass of quality games for them to start stocking them on their shelves.
Theme certainly helps too. Like, trains are going to cut across more demographics than farming. Like, the Settlers of Catan theme, and this is true of any Euro really, is that some people are just going to look at that and be like, no. It doesn't matter how fun it is or how interesting the game is or how great the mechanics are. They're just going to look at sheep and ore and wheat fields and be like, no, I'm not playing that.
But here's something Catan has that Ticket to Ride doesn't, and that's ability to reskin. I mean, you have a lot of different flavors of Catan, and you just have one Ticket to Ride.
But you do have a lot of maps, right? You have to, so Ticket to Ride has more accessibility, relatability, because here's my city, wherever I am in the world. So you could have the map for India, you could have the map for Europe, you could have the map for the USA, and that's accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but the one thing about Catan, though, is for a long time it was just Catan. Like, yes. Catan was the sole survivor. It was the one holding the line. And I think Chris, you brought the point up, and I think it's quite right, that if Catan hadn't been there, it's possible that the market would have just disappeared. Totally. Wow. Right. So I think that they were the doorstop that kept the door open for future successes. But, I mean, in the same way, every good game saved the gaming industry, and every bad one hurt it. And I think that's just going to be the way it goes in most industries, right? Because it eventually hit that critical mass of good games, right? Had it just been Ticket to Ride, that wouldn't have been enough either. It was that Ticket to Ride came out in a time where a bunch of other really good games were coming out too.
Yeah.
And by all of them coming out around the same time, all coming together, suddenly we had a legitimate industry appear, right?
Yeah. And I remember hearing about Coca-Cola when it first came out, like, here is this soft drink, and it's a soda, and you can drink it. And it almost disappeared because it was just one of many drinks. And then when Pepsi came out, it became its own market, right? Yeah. Soda became its own thing. Not just like, I don't know if I want water, milk, or Coca-Cola, but like, which soda do I want? So when you had Ticket to Ride and Catan and as Daniel was saying, many other good games, it became the hobby gaming market. You could have hobby gaming stores and not just, here's another game amongst other games.
Yeah. And you have to keep in mind, too, that if you're a game designer and you're like, oh, I could spend 100 hours making this game and nobody's going to play it. Oh, wait, Settlers of Catan has sold 2 million copies in the last 10 years. I can get into this market and I could make money. Now, we know that most designers don't make a ton of money, but it's possible. They could look at that and say, yes, this is an option. This could be my career. This could be a hobby that turns into something more. Same with the publishers. You know, the guy who started Ticket to Ride, or started Days of Wonder. It was an investment because, like, this is a market that's growing, and games like Catan show that it could grow. Definitely. And when you put money into something, that's when quality starts coming out of it because there's more people doing it.
Yeah. Well, and we brought this out last week, but it bears repeating again. New York University has a game design program now, BFA and MFA. So obviously this is a niche which is now taking off. It's taken seriously.
Yeah.
And as we talked about this previously, is that we have yet to see the height that board gaming can really go as a hobby and as a mainstay in people's home and family activity. So the next Alan Moon can come from NYU, can do great things, can, help, revolutionize the industry that is small enough that anybody can kind of make a name for themselves. It's really such an interesting industry, whereas video gaming is a little bit harder on that respect. Board gaming is wide open for you to come in, dominate, kind of express yourself in your own particular way, and make your mark.
Yeah. I mean, a good video game, if you want it to reach full capacity, it costs millions of dollars to make.
And you have to go through a company.
Yeah. Whereas a good board game, you could have a good idea, put it up on Kickstarter. You could make the next Boss Monster or the next Euphoria, or
It has more of a rags to riches feel to it.
Yes.
Come out of nowhere.
These people could come out of nowhere, and that's one of the fun parts of the hobby.
Well, the hobby game industry is definitely strong. That's why a business website like ICV2 covers it. Every quarter they publish a white paper talking about the sales in the various entertainment industries, and they spend a lot of time talking about board games. Their report was it was another strong season for game sales, the summer season. The three categories that led the way were RPGs, non-collectible card games, and board games. Very strong sales. But they also had a caution. Board game sales, they say, were hampered by stockouts. 5 of the top 10 games at some point during the summer were out of stock. And that includes, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you any of the top 10 games. You're going to have to guess later. Sorry. But here's the question. We know about that. Games that we wanted are out of stock. How can companies balance this supply and demand? Because not having supply is hurting them.
Sure.
Definitely.
Like WizKids, especially.
Make more. That's how they can balance that. Increase the supply.
But they're wary, though, because you don't want to end up in that, like, a landfill full of ET cartridges / Dice Master boxes. It's dangerous if you make too many.
Yeah.
You can go bankrupt. These companies are small. But they're like, my game's going to be huge. Let's make 10,000 copies. Crap.
But somewhere there has to be middle ground. If you're going to have a print run, it doesn't cost all that much to just add another couple thousand to the run. You don't have to do 10,000, but just...
And remember, E.T. was a terrible game. I have the E.T. cartridge. It was a terrible game. It was a quick movie tie-in. It was garbage. It was just garbage. So it wasn't mass numbers. It was mass numbers and
and it's not a perfect analogy, but it's the same idea. Like, if inflation,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
You have to be careful. and their margins are thin, so you have to, they can only go up a little bit, and they have to get as close as what they think they can sell as possible. The market's growing faster than they're projecting, which is awesome, but at the same time, it means we can't find the games we want.
Yeah,
it's true.
And do you find that the desire lessens the more you have to wait? Because they were saying, I think in terms of Dice Master, Marvel Dice Master, is that the one that was out of stock?
Yes.
Yeah.
That sales were not what was expected because people were waiting so long that when it finally was in stock, it was on to other things.
It's still not in stock. You still can't find Avengers vs. X-Men. The Uncanny X-Men set came out last week, and everybody has 1 billion of those. That was easy to find. But
even that was delayed.
Yeah.
Production was delayed. And anytime these things are delayed, especially when they're tied into conventions and tournaments, it hurts it. Yeah. I gotta say, we talk about games a lot, but if you are a hobby of the industry, you know that one of the challenging parts of this is you often can't get the game you want, even if you're willing to pay for it. So games come out in Origins, they come out at Gen Con, they come in Essen, and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting online for these games to hit, and when they do, they're gone. And it was like, that was it, 20 of those games, and all right, wait, they're gone. So there is not enough stock to meet the demand. There's a high demand for games.
So got to praise all you hobbyists out there who are always on top of things, want to buy the games. Now it's time for the publishers to get on the ball and hand them over so we can buy them. Definitely. Okay, I talked about the top 10 list. Last week we did top 10 dice / card games. Mm-hmm. From the summer of 2014, the top 10 board games for the summer. I'm going to do the same thing. A list of 1 to 10, top 10 answers on the board, just like Family Feud. You guys have to try and find the highest one. Daniel, you're going to have to start, because you won the first round.
Oh, God. That was a top 10 board game.
It could be evergreen or something recent from this year.
Hold on, let me look at my shelf.
I still call Shenanigans on Boss Monster being number 1. Shenanigans!
You guys didn't hear this, but off the air, Chris was livid.
I was livid. I had a broom out, and I was like, Shenanigans! ones. I love Boss Monster. I love Brotherwise games. I backed the Kickstarter, but shenanigans. So
Board games.
You
not
won't have a
card
problem.
games.
You won't have a problem. There are so many.
you were overthinking this, my friend.
Well, I also read part of his list when he wasn't looking. So I'm not letting myself call any of the ones that were on the list, which are all the ones I would have guessed. So now I'm having to figure out one that I wouldn't have guessed.
There are a lot of evergreens, and there are a couple from the past year. At least three, I think, from the past year.
We'll guess more.
Let's go with.
Well, speaking of which, I know what Daniel wants to go with, which is Betrayal on the House on the Hill. That is constantly out of print. And we were talking to some of the local friendly game stores that, as you just mentioned, Drew, these games, they're in very short print runs.
And yet, for the summer, it was number 5 on the top 10 list.
I'm going to do Power Grid.
Power Grid. And Anthony?
Pick 2, because...
Caverna.
He says Caverna. Oh, you're going to give everyone
Pick 2,
2?
yeah.
All right, Pandemic.
Pandemic and Caverna.
I mean, do I go with the easy ones?
I'm telling you.
The easy ones, it's got to be Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride. Those are...
Did you see the list? Because
Oh,
they're
I
one.
don't- Do we have to know that those are the top sellers?
1, 2. We just talked about how they saved the industry. They're 1 and 2.
Somebody listens to the podcast. It's this guy.
Okay, Firefly is the hotness. I hate saying that word.
That's so weird.
But Firefly's number 3.
I'm a brown coat, but I still find that weird.
Yeah.
That was number 3. Pandemic 4, Betrayal 5. Caverna is in the top 10 list.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
That's
Because
number
that
7.
game was... There's another game that was out of print for a very long time. And when it came in, it was very short print. And then it was out of print
And
again.
you bought it.
Well, when this last print run they did in the spring was big because it hasn't been out of print since. That's why I thought it could be in the top 10.
But I
So
think
many people waited on it.
But I think a lot of people don't know it's back in print now. And because they listen to this podcast, they know that it's in print. So
yes.
buy it.
Yes.
Great
It is
game.
available everywhere. I've seen it everywhere I go.
Buy it and give me a copy.
Awesome.
My game of the year. Awesome.
So you guys are driving sales,
what else do we have?
double-digit sales. That was it for this category.
Well, what else was on that list?
Oh, I'm sorry. Eldritch Horror, Carcassonne, King of Tokyo.
Oh, I almost went with King of Tokyo.
Oh, and Small World.
Small World.
Yeah.
Small World.
So
Good games.
And these are most of these games you'll see at your local big box store. Many of them. You won't see Eldritch Horror there, but you'll see a lot of the others.
It's there. You just can't see it because it's too horrifying to imagine.
It's
that
in the back. They have it in the
It's in Bed Bath and Beyond.
under the counter.
It's in the Beyond section.
It's in the adult section of Target.
You know,
Family Guy jokes are awesome.
hey, that was an original. Come on, you go back into Bed Bath and Beyond. You go bed section, bat section, and there's a tentacle section.
Oh, Beyond.
That's the
Yeah,
Beyond section. If you've hit the tentacles, you went too far.
Okay, one more really cool PR. I never would have expected this, but the magazine Popular Mechanics, the Bible of the DIY set, had an article called "Stop Reading This and Go Build Your Own Board Game." It was an interview.
Do we have to stop now? Stop the podcast?
Stop playing games. Start designing your own.
Okay.
It's all about DIY, and they talked to these people, Jordan Goddard and Mandy Mullen, about their Kickstarter game, Collapse. Received financing there. And it's all about the process of creating your own game, putting on a Kickstarter. It's DIY. And you just mentioned this earlier, Anthony. We're living in an age where you can go from rags to riches all on your own.
Yeah.
And Popular Mechanics is celebrating that.
Let's be honest, rags to slightly nicer rags. That's what you can do with the board game industry.
No, I mean, Alan Moon is not hurting for money, man. Once you produce a good IP like that, you
Franchise
just
it, yeah.
franchise it till there is nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
You could be the next Uwe. I'm just saying.
You could be the next Uwe.
Who wouldn't want to be an Uwe?
Uwe.
Uwe.
So it's not just the DIY nature of design that you can bring it along, but Kickstarter is all DIY too. It's all about that. So kudos to Popular Mechanics for shining a light on this. It's in the. It didn't say what article it is. I imagine it's October issue.
That stuff is cool. I picked up a book maybe a year and a half ago. It's called Geek Dad. I think it's from one of the writers on the blog on Wired.
Geek Dad.
Yeah. So it's all just like geeky stuff you can do with your kids. So I bought it. My son was like a year and a half old at the time, so I'm not doing any of that. But he's getting older. I think the youngest thing in the book is like for 5-year-olds, so it's a stretch. But one of the activities is build your own RPG, and another one is build your own board game.
Really?
So like those are bookmarked. I'm waiting.
Build your own RPG. That would be fun.
Yeah, that one is pretty cool and has a very simple system. Like, it's just a 1-die system in it. It's like 5 pages that describes how it would work, and you build your own system around it.
And I hear your son's already LARPing, so he's...
Yeah. No, actually the opposite. He refuses to put on his costume for Halloween. He's LARPing as a 3-year-old in a ski jacket.
Cool. That's what we got from the tabletop this week.
All right, awesome. So next up, we're going to look at our acquisition disorders for this week. Some of the games that are on the table that we either picked up or we would like to very soon. Acquisition Disorder Corner. All right, so acquisition disorders for this week. Daniel, I know you finally picked up something that's been on your list for a few months, years?
Yeah, so I finally caved and picked up Mage Wars. It's not been a hard game to find, but it's one of those games that I always look at with a little bit of apprehension because I know what will happen to my free time if I purchase it, right? Is I will cease to exist beyond this game because it's such a deep game with so much variability and so much customization and so many possibilities that it's the exact right kind of game to just totally hook me. But I finally gave in. I finally bought it. So from this day forward, the other guys don't know this yet, but this podcast is just going to be about Mage Wars. That's all going to happen.
We tried that once. Didn't work. Did you get it open yet? Did you learn the rules?
I've gotten it open, yes. Have I learned the rules? Nowhere near it.
Cool.
But we'll work on it.
When you do, let me know. We'll play.
Yeah, we can fumble through it.
Yeah, I learned the rules like a year and a half ago. I don't remember them at all, but
yeah,
we could try.
I feel like it's one of those things where it looks more complicated than it is because there's so many tokens and stuff. But all of those tokens mean that it's less stuff for you to keep track of.
Yeah, everything you need to know is on what you're playing.
Exactly.
So it's just a matter of knowing what all those things are. So you just have to play it like 10 times.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start off as playing with the default decks and then figure things out and then start tinkering.
It's got a cool tutorial thing too, where you just play half the map. It takes like an hour instead of 2, so you can learn quicker.
All right.
It's not fun, but you learn faster. All right, awesome. Yeah, I'll play that with you. I don't know about the rest of this crew, but we've had our issues with the Mage Wars addiction in the past.
Yeah, I know.
2-hour, 2-player games are tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough sell, man.
And then a whole league, didn't they? Wasn't there a whole big...
Yeah, that was like one of the bigger competitive leagues I've ever seen in gaming.
Yeah, it's like that.
Locally, anyways.
You know, games like that and games like Warhammer, right? They're all complex. They all take a lot of time, but they are all very, very fun when you get into them.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you hit that threshold where you can compete, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's painful getting to that point.
For the days.
You take some licks.
Yeah. For the days of 4-person, 5-person battles in Warhammer 40K.
God. 10 hours later.
Yeah, I had like an hour and a half there one time. I made it through 2 turns before I had to leave, which really infuriated one of the other players because I teleported my entire army next to their primary, like their massive artillery unit that they spent all their points on, then trashed it, and then I had to leave, so my units just teleported off the board. So like I just went there, destroyed any hope they had of winning, and then left.
What are you doing?
The Necrons arrived for a full 30 seconds just to screw you over and then left. So you personally...
It probably felt personal.
Yeah, probably did.
But good for our list later.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so the game that I've been looking at, I mentioned this a few months ago, just when I heard about it, but now there's actually some collateral out. You can see what's in the game. They've already said it'll be available at BGG Con, so hopefully it's available for the rest of us by the end of the year. And that's Roll for the Galaxy. So when I heard about it at the original time, it was, this is a dice game, kind of like Race for the Galaxy, which in my head can mean anything, right? Who knows what that even means. But now there's a lot more information available. That's 111 custom dice that come in the game.
Yeah.
I know, right? And 78 game tiles. So it's a combination of tiles and dice. In the game itself, you roll your workers, then you assign them secretly. So it's very much like really any of these games where you roll dice and then you spend them. So point allocation. And then you do the phases chosen by the players, very similar to Roll for the Galaxy. So you can explore or develop or settle or produce or ship for money, and then you recruit new workers. So it's like it seems like a kind of cool hybrid of different types of games like this. So it's got the basics of Race for the Galaxy, but then also like this dice builder mechanic that everybody's using right now, but in a new twist. So who knows how it plays out, but if it does both of those things as well as other things have done them, it should be unique and kind of cool. So I'm excited to see how it turns out once it's finally released. And hopefully it doesn't reach the list that Drew gave us of games that are never in print. Because who knows? Rio Grande, they just tend to just drop stuff and it's just available one day. So it could be out now for all I know when you're listening to this. Or it could be out next March. Who knows? But I'll give it a shot when it's out.
A game I'm looking forward to picking up is called Evolution. If it sounds familiar to anyone, it's actually a game we previewed many months ago. It's an opportunity for me, anyway, to see how a game has been tweaked and improved. I love the process. So we saw a rawer version of it. Now it's ready to come to market. Curious to know how they upgraded it, how they refined it. It had, enough interesting mechanics in it to make me want to play it again, to see if the components are up to snuff. So that's what I want to at least try it once. I may not like it any more than I liked it when we previewed it, but, let's give it a shot, see if it improved.
Yeah, I think you have to. Like, anytime you play a prototype or an early game and you're like, I'm not sure if it really pulls it off, you need to see the end version.
Let's try it, yeah.
And I saw it in the store the other day, so it is out.
Okay.
North Star Games, it's a pretty big box. The components look good. I mean, we didn't see the final versions, obviously, so, the final version looks nice. So I'm with you. I want to see how it plays out.
All right.
All right, so that's all the acquisition disorders for this week. Next up, we'll see what we've been playing lately. Kicking the Habits.
Hey Kickers, this is Chris from Kicking the Habit, and on episode 21, we're going to take a look back at Private Die, a noir dice game, Return of the Dragon, Monster Mansion, and board game accessories by eRaptor. But that's not it. We're also going to take a look at 4 brand new campaigns you want to keep an eye out for, including El Luchadore Fantastico Grande Tabletop Game, Epic Deck, Hardcore Mode, Spell Stealers, and What the Blank. So, be sure to listen for us on Wednesday, November 19th, 2014, and I'll let you know what games to kick off, what games to kick back and wait, and especially what games to kick to the curb.
At the table this week. Alright, so games we've been playing lately, some more games that we got to the table at Extra Life, as well as some other games we got out a little recently. I'm going to kick things off with one of the lightest games I've played recently, but it was fun and a perfect match for 9:30, 10 o'clock at the end of a long Extra Life event day, especially for Daniel. We actually got him into a game. Somehow half of us hadn't played this either. It was Blockus. So I've seen this a billion times. It's basically, it looks like Tetris. It's not Tetris, but it's basically this big gray board, and you have to lay down your little pieces. You have a set number of pieces. You lay them down in turn order. You have to touch a corner of one of yours to one of your other ones. They can't be adjacent to each other. That's it. Those are the rules. Once there's no legal moves left for anybody, you count up how many squares you have left, and the person with the least wins. The end. It was so easy. Minimal AP. Took like 20-30 minutes. Honestly, I'm surprised I hadn't played this before because it's so straightforward. You'd think it would come out more often in the game store. And it's probably one I'll pick up because it's something I could just teach to anybody, honestly. It's a good one to own if you have kids and or casual family members.
It's got one of those, it's got that factor where if you get the right piece and you find the right space for it, it's like, wow, I fit that in there. I extended my line.
Yeah, there's a couple cool things where like you're completely blocked off and then somebody drops something, you're like, oh, snap, and then you can like jump.
Yeah.
Because you only have to touch corners.
Well,
you
cut
can
right
drop
through,
something,
exactly.
And you suddenly open up this whole new area.
Yeah.
It's like spreading. I don't know. It just reminded me of like almost like a disease or something, and just spreading across the board while we're in this disease mentality.
Yeah, no, it was a great game to play. I was totally exhausted at that point in time, and I was able to keep up with 0 hesitation. I mean, it's incredibly simple, right? This would be a great game for kids. a great game for the exhausted amongst you.
Yeah,
It was fun.
There's one rule. There's one rule. That's it, and it's all anybody needs to know. Everything else is like however complicated you want to make it in your own head. So,
Yep.
It has all the pieces already are done, so all those kind of famous Tetris pieces are kind of in this set amongst a number of the different shapes. So it's like, here's what you got to do. You can just do it, and it's simple, easy, and it was able to squeeze in one more game at the end of the night that didn't break anybody, and it's colorful. And there's a regular tabletop version, and then there's a bigger version, which is just like massively big for a very large table, but fun either way to play. It's something to pick up, and you can definitely play Tetris music at the same time to kind of get into the feel of it.
which we did. Yeah, Chris hooked us up. He found the game that he knew that we could actually play in our borderline inebriated states, and then he gave us a nice soundtrack. It was fun.
Yeah.
Drunk on board games.
Yeah.
Well, I got to play Hansa Teutonica for the first time, and you can tell by the name alone that this game was designed and developed and all about Japan. And no one caught that. Nobody listens to anything I say. You're just sitting there like...
Did you say something, Drew?
He said
Exactly. Japan.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't fit the name.
No.
No, it's about Germany. It's a... I wanted to say cute because it has... I like the artwork. It has a Thurn and Taxis feel to it. Renaissance, old days. Basically, you're trying to complete routes across the board, and when you complete a certain route, then you can either stake a claim in the city on one end of the route, or you can take a special power. So either claim a city, take a power. A lot of choices, a lot of way to victory, because there are routes all over the board to different cities, different locations that give you different powers. And it has a higher degree of interaction than you would expect from a Euro game, because you can claim a route that somebody else has been wanting. You can stake a claim in a city so that anytime somebody completes a route that leads to that city, you get a bonus. So it's that combination of Euro classic feel with the interaction that makes this fun.
The game I was able to get to the table with family was Roll For It. Now, this is the new reskin version that comes with a little kind of brass, almost like a steampunk Victorian type of metal tin and artwork that takes the traditional dice cards that you will be rolling for and adds a Pegasus, adds a dragon, adds beautiful artwork to it. But otherwise, it's the exact same game as Roll For It. You're going to start off with 3 or 4 cards laid out. You're going to roll dice to match the patterns on the cards. You can lock dice in for those cards. And then if whoever is able to roll the dice that are required for the card will score the points. So the more complicated and number of die that will be needed for that to complete that card will score more points. So if you need 6 dice, it'll score 15 points. If it's 2 dice, it's only 2 points. It's fast, it's simple, it's incredibly quick. Since it's a dice game and you're trying to roll patterns, it's completely random. But the family really loved it, and it was interesting, and it was something that you can play without even explaining the rules. Like, roll your dice. Okay, you can go here and here, here. See how that works? Oh, okay. So for a uberly quick, simple game that can play up to 8 people, Roll For It is a great option and can fit in your pocket. So
sounds like a great lunchtime game.
It is. It's something that it's a great lunchtime game, and it's worth the buy. I mean, it's a very reasonable price point. And it gives you a number of different colored dice, so it's not just like everyone's getting white dice. They're all different colors, so you know which one you are. And great lunchtime, great anytime game.
That's great. Yeah, and Calliope was, they really helped us out with the event. They sent us a lot of games, including a couple copies of this. And they have the Roll For It Micro Edition as well, which is like 2 cards and 6 little bitty dice.
Oh, even smaller than what you had.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a lunchtime.
Like, it'll fit in your wallet, not just in your pocket. So yeah, it looks cool. I haven't got a chance to play it yet, but
super, super quick, super simple, super not thinking at all what you're doing or what watching. But it really fits that kind of micro game probably better than any other micro game I've played.
Awesome.
So could we create a theme night of like roll for it, roll through the ages, roll for the galaxy.
There you go.
We have a theme here.
Dice! Dice!
You can roll your dice and then decide in which game you're going to use those dice for in those different games.
That's it. All right.
We can do a section of D&D where everyone's high-level wizards using empowered fireballs. Just dice!
We got a theme. We got to try it.
All right.
Let's do it. All right, so that's all the stuff we got to the table this week. Next up, we're going to look at our top 10 games that are more dangerous than Ouija.
Dun, dun.
Again, bashing the movie.
And now for the feature review.
So for our top 10 this week, we took into consideration Ouija the board game, the #1 movie in America, depressingly enough. But even though Ouija could possibly call up the spirits and devils of doom to affect and contaminate and destroy your family and friends, it turns out there are games that are even worse than that. So today we're going to talk about the top 10 games that, while do not summon the demons of the underworld, will create as just as much hatred, resentment, and I'm going to get you later after this game is over type of mentality. So let's get started with our number 10.
All right. So again, these games are not necessarily dark, demonic, Halloween-y. These are games that are going to make people mad.
Yeah, they're still great games. It's nothing bad about the game, nothing scary or satanic. It's just that people will get annoyed really easily.
Well, that's what they say. Psychologists say about Ouija. It's not you're not getting in touch with spirits, but it's like subconscious. You're getting in touch with what's deep, dark down inside of you.
And then you mess with other people.
And that's what these games do.
Or the other person's just moving the damn thing.
Someone's always moving the thing. Like, I'm not moving. What are you talking about?
I don't know, just they keep saying I'm awesome. I mean, I guess every ghost thinks I'm awesome.
Because if movie publishers knew about these games, these games would be the horror games.
Yeah. They summon the demons within yourself.
That's right.
That's it.
All right. So in no particular order from our top 10 list here, we have first up, Revolution.
It has a unique mechanic of everybody bidding on these different agents, and then you reveal the blind bid, and whoever bids the highest gets to use the agent. And you only have limited resources to bid on these guys, and you really need this particular agent's powers, and you don't have enough money, and somebody who's rich and has all of these, they outbid you. And then everybody outbids you, and you get nothing that turn. I've never been so frustrated as I have in Revolution, because you can just put everything you have into it and end up with nothing. And it's usually the same person all the time who outbids you. That's where the feelings of murder come in.
Oh yeah, and the other part of that game too, which really kind of gets you too, is you clearly are going for an area, and then someone's like, "Nope, I'm putting a cube there. Nope, I'm taking your cube out." And you're like, "Well, but that was my area. I was doing that thing," and they're like, "No, that's mine." You're like, "No, I needed that whole area." Why?
The area control aspects, yeah, because it changes constantly.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it's that bidding that just gets me.
Yeah, this is one of the few games on the list that's not designed as a stab your partner in the back game, and yet it still feels like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and somehow this is the game that we all got to know each other over.
We love this game. It's
We
a great
played this game twice the first night when we met each other, the three of us.
Yeah.
We played it twice in a row, and yet we still are speaking. So
That's it. We can survive it.
it's a testament to game design.
But it's funny, Chris, when you were interviewing Philip DeBarry about another one of his games,
Yeah.
you asked him about this, and he got it. He understood, know,
Yes.
how it can break friendships.
It's been known to happen. All right, so next up on the list here we have Game of Thrones. Now I put the LCG and the board game, but if we're talking about backstabby games, it's board game first. This is the game that we would talk about under our breaths in the game store as the game that ruins friendships. So a lot of people had actually never played it because of that. They'd be like, "Oh, it's the game that ruins friendships." Well, then maybe we won't play that today.
That's right.
And it's the Game of Thrones. Of course it's a game that ruins friendships. You make alliances, you break them, you turn tables on people constantly. You do things that are best for you, and it's designed to hurt everybody else. The LCG is similar. It's not exactly the same, but if you play with 4 people, the gang up on somebody moment happens, but it's Game of Thrones, so everything's designed to hurt someone else.
And especially, you can't play alone. You can't win alone. You have to kind of ally with other people, and then as soon as you ally with them, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, but eventually you're going to stab them in the back.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's not Cosmic Encounter. There are not 2 winners in this game.
No.
So you either win or you die.
It's sort of blatant, the backstabbing. You know it's coming. You see the knife, you feel it going in, and you just accept it. Yeah, I know.
And it's a very long game, especially the board game. So you're playing this game and you're like, I am getting killed so much by people who said they were on my side.
So we're going to talk about diplomacy later, I know, but this reminds me so much of that. It's the diplomacy who played by or featuring characters who are frequently naked on screen. This is sexy diplomacy, basically. Sexy diplomacy.
Sexplomacy.
Really, all
Okay.
these sexy characters from Game of Thrones, and they're just stabbing each other.
To be
in the
fair, the show is a little more pornographic than the books. So, and this is based on the books.
Okay.
But Game of Thrones, the board game, this could easily be number 1 on any list if they were in order, because this is more frequent than any other game I've heard. That's how it's described. So next on the list we have, well, maybe the one that would rival that for number 1 is Cutthroat Caverns.
Cutthroat Caverns. Smirk and Dagger. Do you know how to stab someone in the back? Clearly you do, because it's in your name. So what's really backstabby about this is the game itself is, once again, all about, we gotta team up, we gotta go in there, we gotta save the day, and I'm about to get the winning blow because I was such a good warrior, and oops, you tripped me, I fell on my face, you stabbed me in the back, you killed the monster, and took all the treasure, and now you won, and now I'm poisoned, and I am going to kill you after this game, because that's all this game is about. It's about just working together just long enough that everything happens. So it's that, that eventual sudden betrayal of everything. So,
This is one of the most frustrating games I've ever played.
yes. And that's what's really rough about the game, too. It's not that you get stabbed in the back. It's that this game, so much of it actually keeps you from playing because everyone else is messing with you.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like an angrier, meaner Munchkin.
It is.
And, Smirk and Dagger has made their name on these kind of games. This one, a lot of people like it a lot. So I won't talk about whether it's good or not. If you like that kind of game, it does it very well. Dread Curse is another one we talked about last week that has the same kind of mechanic. It's a little bit lighter. It doesn't make the list because it doesn't build that kind of rage in people. But it's the same mechanic, so, if you like these kind of games, this is a company you should keep an eye on.
Okay, I've never played this game. Is this the kind of game where you are choosing the time, the exact moment to betray the others, and right before you do, someone betrays you
You
and
can,
gets the jump on you?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has cards. So if you could be about to do something and people start throwing cards at you, and then you'll have a card that'll counter it, and then they'll throw another card at you.
What's really frustrating is just you can't, some rounds you're not doing anything because people are countering your hits.
That's frustrating.
Yeah.
And so, Munchkin gets like that in the last round or two, so it'll drag out a little bit. This game is like that the entire game.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you take the most frustrating part of Munchkin and stretch it out over an hour, that's Cutthroat Caverns.
Yeah. That's true.
All right. So next on the list, we have another game with hidden information. That's Citadels.
Citadels!
Citadels, it's not a stab your neighbor in the back type of game per se, but three of the roles, in this game in particular, directly hurt somebody else. And these alone can cause great rage at the table. There's the assassin. You can kill somebody. There's the thief. You can take somebody's stuff. Or you can destroy someone's buildings.
The warlord.
Yeah. With the warlord, yep. And all three of those will cause table flipping incidents if stacked up enough. Like, there have been times 3 or 4 rounds through the game where I've been killed, thieved, or one of my buildings broken down repeatedly, and so I've just done nothing. And then whoever did like the 3rd or 4th one in that one is the person I want to kill the most. So.
See, it's possible to use deduction, depending on where you're sitting relative to the first player.
Sure.
To figure out who is getting what role.
Yes.
So that way you can really specifically single out somebody to screw over, and they're the one they get mad at you. The most common scenario is someone's collecting some money, and you know they're going to get the architect so they can start building a lot of buildings. So you get the thief, and you just swipe all his money, and he wants to kill you.
Or you get assassinated through half the game and just not be able to play
constantly.
your turn.
Every turn.
Yeah.
You're getting nailed.
Yeah. It happens to at least one person in every game. It's impossible to play this game without one person just hating it. So, hence Citadel.
It's true. The expansion allows you to play a little bit softer of roles that are not as damaging, but it wouldn't be Citadels otherwise.
No.
Yeah. It's a fun game, though. I actually like it.
I love the
despite all
game.
that, yeah.
It's a great game.
All right, next on the list we have Cosmic Encounter. All right, so this game is not quite as mean as the others, and almost entirely because multiple people can win the game together. So you could just work together repeatedly. But there are those moments when you say, I'd like to negotiate. Like, yeah, I'll negotiate too. And then someone flips not a negotiation card and just says, ha-ha.
Oh, yeah.
You can make a deal and go back on it, and that's like one of the major ways that you're just going to drive somebody crazy in a game like this. Every time I've played, there's been someone at the table who's just kind of had kind of a bad time. It's a good game. It's a lot of fun, but someone's always going to get stabbed a little bit harder than everybody else.
I think that's one of the cards that's in specifically infuriating, where you can get a whole bunch of allies on your side, you can win, and then you can play the card that says no allies get a benefit for winning. And you're like, hey, thanks, guys. I get all the benefits and all the planets, all the stuff, and you get nothing because I played that card. And everyone's like, oh, no.
I'm gonna kill you. Yeah, and then there are certain races that have certain abilities, like the symbiote can just go do what he wants. Other people can force people to join them. Like, no, you have to help me. There's so many race powers that break so many different things in the game that some of them are going to infuriate people. There was one I had once that made, if you defeated somebody, their ships didn't go to the void, they were just out of the game. So that was really mean. Like, basically, you could almost eliminate them. And then there's always the situation where one person, like 4 people win and one person doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that?
That'll make them really mad if you're the one guy who doesn't win the game.
And it's a rough game because you have to ask for allies, either to attack or to defend. And you're like, it really challenges your friendships as far as like, why aren't you allying with me? We're friends. He's going to crush me if you don't ally. No, you're allying with him? Oh no, that's not good at all. What's going on here?
This is going to go poorly.
Yeah.
Every game has an opportunistic so-and-so who knows what side to be on and when and how much to commit or how little to commit to the fight. So they win without committing hardly anything and reap the benefits. Always someone you want to summon dark forces against.
There you go.
Yeah, and the game mitigates it a little bit because you don't get to choose who you attack. But, I mean, if you could, the game would just be mean.
Yeah.
But you jump. It's the idea of jumping in on someone else's attack.
The game is all about piling in to attack somebody or to thwart somebody, and that's rough.
Yeah.
And it's rough when everybody is opportunistic on the other side.
Yeah,
you're being
everyone
attacked
against you.
and nobody will help. Yeah, you're right. It's
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
All right, so the next one on the list here is another really long game, and this could really apply to any long game where there's battles and armies and you're fighting against each other. But for this one, we picked Rune Wars because it is a 5-6 hour game.
Yeah,
and everybody has their own army, and everybody can make decisions as they go and who they're going to attack and what they're going to go after. And inevitably, that decision is going to make someone very mad because you could easily have gone somewhere else. And this applies to a lot of different battle games, but the mechanics of this game in particular make it so that those decisions are very evident. And it's also possible to just be like, oh, see, now you've made me mad. I'm just going to start attacking you a lot.
and what happens with this game too is it's not just attacking other people's forces, but when you take their lands, you pull out. They lose all those resources to be able to build. So it's completely possible that you could find yourself in a situation where you're playing hours of this game and not being able to do anything of significance because the few lands that you're holding on to doesn't have the resources you require, and you're like, why? I have to sit here, and you just burn for hours in this game. And there's so many cards that just flip situations where you take other people's troops, or you do other things. It's really kind of nasty at certain points.
Yeah, the second time I played this, I was almost eliminated.
Yeah.
A couple bad.
Sorry, what was that you said?
A couple bad card draws and a couple bad situations, and I found myself with like 2 troops left in a corner, and my opponent actually backed off because he decided it was not in his best interest to move into that corner. But if he had, I would have just been out of the game after 3 hours. I was really mad. So
This was one of these games I played it one time, and I was the new guy, and this was not a case of, well, he's a new guy, let's go easy on him, let's let him learn the game. It's such an in-depth, involved game, no one's going to give you that break. And so
can't.
I just got obliterated. And
Yeah.
it's like, argh.
this is a game that's really tough to be the new guy at the table at.
Yeah.
Like when we played, we all learned together. The second time we played, we brought one new player in, and it was tough. It took a while. Like you almost had to have a practice round and then backtrack it and give them a couple extra situations. Yeah. But there's so many, like, you're drawing random cards, you can't, like, oh, well, we'll give you another chance. It's like, no, you made that decision. You got to go with it. And some of your actions are programmed, and it's just, there's too much going on.
It's not a kind game.
No. And teaching games, it still takes 6 hours. You don't want a teaching game. You just want to get into it.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the first 6 in our top 10 list. The next 4 are our Fab 4 top picks for this top 10 list. So we'll just go around. Everybody tell us what your top pick is of the games that you feel make the most angry people at the table.
Yeah, well, so my Fab 4 pick, it's not the worst game for this, right? It's not the one that's the most brutal or terrible or the most likely to summon your dark spirits, but it is a game that has a wider market than most, and so I think it has summoned more dark spirits than anything else on the list, and that is Munchkin.
Yes.
And, you know, Munchkin, it really isn't that brutal, and I was thinking about Munchkin, I've always had really good experiences playing Munchkin, but then again, I almost always win Munchkin, so I'm not the person I need to be thinking about. I should think about the people I play with. And I have never seen more conspiratorial glances, borderline threats of murder, and like this total conviction that I am in fact a dark wizard bent on destroying them with my every single move, right? Like, you'll be offering help for a totally reasonable deal. They're like, no, don't take it. He's a demon. He will turn this against you. You just, okay, but I mean, and it makes sense, right? This is a game where you can do things like, oh, you're fighting a level 2 monster and a level 18 monster, and then I'm going to duplicate, or, you know, raise it to 28, then duplicate it, so you got 2 level 28 monsters in that room with you too, and if you lose, you're going to lose 8 levels. Have fun, like...
Yeah, that's the hard part about Munchkin, is about, I'd say 70% of the way through the game, it goes really bad.
Yeah.
So, and that's the fun of it. A lot of people have fun with that. But if you get hit particularly bad, usually if you run away too early with the lead, which don't do that. Never do that. If you get to level 8 or 9 in the first 20 minutes of this game, they're just going to hit you over and over and over again until you die. But that's fun for the rest of the table. So
Yeah, just lay low while everyone hits on the leader, and then boom, jump. Sneak to the win.
Well, if you don't spend too many cards to get ahead, though, what you do is you make that lunge ahead, then everyone has to expend all their resources trying to keep you down while you just start gathering.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, I'm just gonna, alright, that's fine, keep on hitting me, that's fine.
Wait, this just, for some reason, this put me in mind of Machikoro. I'm going to make a bonus pick here, because I was getting so frustrated last night. I had a game engine where I was collecting money, and you guys kept hitting me, or I kept rolling the wrong things, and you guys kept rolling things that I kept losing money to you guys.
But that wasn't a
never
decision.
got close enough.
Like, I didn't just choose to attack you.
Well, yeah, I know. This is a game about choice, but God, it's that feeling of... Argh! Good point.
Well, it deserves a list if it got an and a drill.
Yeah. God, it's like 3-4 rounds. I just couldn't do anything. And it's that. Well, it was the same feeling of frustration you get from Munchkin when you're so close to winning and everyone stops you.
You can't get that one last level, just...
Yeah.
All right. Well, Drew, what is your Fab 4 pick for this
Oh,
list?
it's diplomacy. It's diplomacy. A lot of people's number one list, and I won't even play that again because it does bring up dark demons of my soul to the surface. Hate it because no one who plays that game is left with a soul at the end. It really, it's true. It's true. You've made so many deals with the devil that there's nothing left. I am waiting. I will play it again if somebody comes out with a Dungeons and Dragons diplomacy game. So that I can summon up some djinn or demons or something and just send them at the other people and wipe them out. I will not play that again.
Okay, fair enough. I've not played it for that exact reason, so I'm going to keep that on that and do not play list.
Okay.
Well, my kind of top destruction, soul breaking type of game has to be Werewolf. Now, the reason for this is because when you play Werewolf, it seems pretty simple. It's a party game. Everyone gets together. Everyone gets a roll card. It's pretty simple. You know, there's not really much to it. You're going to pick somebody out to be killed. And you're like, all right, I can do this. And then once you get to the day phase where you have to pick somebody out, then the horror begins because all you really can do is randomly be pointing at people and go, we should kill Drew. And Drew's like, why would you do that? And you're like,
because he has a beard.
He has a beard. Which is what I often do to Anthony in a game. I'm like, that's as good of a rationale as any. And then you spend about 5-10 minutes pointing at people to kill, which in any other context would be illegal, if not horrifying. In this one, it's still illegal and horrifying because your friends are like, I thought we were friends. Why are you picking me out to be killed? And now you're not only choosing to pick a person, but you're trying to convince other people to choose to pick that same person to kill them. And then they're telling you, other people, that you should be the person, and you're just spending the entire time pointing fingers at people, telling them that the other person should be killed. And the anger and frustration and just like, 15-20 minutes of boredom that comes with trying to avoid getting killed and having to pick someone else is just breaking in so many different ways.
It's a game that turns everyone into a schoolyard bully, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, most hidden trader games have a little bit of that witch hunt fever.
Sure.
I've seen it in Battlestar Galactica too. You just go after somebody you think is the Cylon, and
Yeah,
it's
but
not.
this is the whole game.
Is all about that.
Is
concept.
all about that, and it's just so tiring and depressing because by the time you get to the end of the game, you've just like murdered half of the village, whether they were werewolves or not, and you're like, all right, there's 2 or 3 people left. I need to keep killing people, and you're just like,
Sooner or later.
And it's a player elimination game, unlike Battlestar Galactica. So when someone loses, they now have to go away from the game, and you continue to play. So it's like, not only am I'm making you mad at me, but you can't play anymore either.
Wow.
So I'm picking the person, the friend, which I'm saying to you, I don't want you to play with me anymore. You need to leave.
Well,
yeah.
So it's the ultimate, like you said, school bully kind of game.
God, I can see why that's in the Fab 4 shortlist. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, any game that's on that top hidden trader mechanic list probably could give it a run for its money because it just makes you mad sometimes. Resistance, Avalon.
Yeah.
Anytime you're like, why are you lying to me? Like, especially if it's someone you know. Like, for example, if I played one of these games with my wife, she would probably destroy me because she's got that poker face. But I'd be like, you're lying to me,
But this is player elimination.
And that makes it worse.
That's why at the top of the list.
Yeah, which is why the other game's fixed. All right, so my top pick, and this is a game I actually quite enjoy, but both times I've played it, all 3 times I've played it, at least one person at the table was a little ragey at the end for good reasons, and that's nothing personal. To me, this is one of the best backstabbing games out there, but that means someone's going to be pretty mad. The goal of the game is to work your way up through the mafia, to become the capo, to get the most points, to run away and basically manipulate and outthink the rest of the players. So you have to make a lot of deals, and you have to go back on a lot of deals, and you have to kind of move in on people's territory, and you have to kind of kill people. It's
I was gonna say, it has to be a lot of bodies, isn't there?
There are like 4 different ways to mess somebody up in this game, and you're going to use all of them happily, liberally, because the game requires it if you want to succeed. And the game is long. It's 2 to 3 hours, and it plays multiple people, and someone's always kind of at the bottom rung of that. If you're in the middle, you're giving as good as you receive, and it's fun. But if you're the guy who kind of gets, ganged up on, or if you miss a mechanic his first couple times playing, God, people have gotten mad playing this game.
So is it player elimination or not? You stay in the game.
No, there's no elimination, but if you fall far enough behind, it's hard to do much in the second half of the game. So, I don't think we've played this in a long time.
I've never played it.
It has the capacity to be a lot of fun because if everyone's in on the joke, but everyone must absolutely positively be on the joke because the game requires you to deal with other players. And if you're not cool with the fact that, you know, you're going to negotiate with me and then 5 seconds later I'm like, no, not coming through with my deal, it's really easy to kind of get angry, and this is a long game.
Yeah. The first time that happens in a game, someone's like, what the heck?
And it spirals very quickly.
Yeah. Wow.
Because now you did this to me, so I'm going to do it to you at some point, and then,
And people start picking on each other, and then, of course, they're not going to win because they're just going back and forth.
Well, the code, revenge. You have to get revenge. Somebody hits you, you got to hit them back.
Exactly. And there's something to that, too. It is part of the game, but at a certain point, is it worth it? Yeah. It's really tough. But this game is really good, too. The components are extremely high quality. Everything's cardboard. Like thick, heavy cardboard. There's a ring you pass around, whoever the capo is. So, it's a lot of fun to play. It's just, you got to have the right group, and you got to, like, prep everybody. You need, like, a PSA. Like, play a movie before you start. You know how people have to sign waivers to go on the really tough roller coasters to make sure they don't have a heart condition? You know, sign a waiver to make sure people aren't going to, like, freak out playing this game. Like, all right, you may be messed with, stabbed in the back, and or all of your money stolen. Please sign here that you're not going to flip the table.
Did we take Lifeboat off this list?
We did because it was clearly too dangerous to talk about.
God, no.
Yes.
It's that. We can't even utter it and play
It's the game that shall not be named.
God. Yeah. Does anybody ever play that game anymore? It's like,
I've
never played
it. You bring it up and, no, I'm not playing that game. God, I think that is like a Ouija board. I would never sit down to a Ouija board and summon demons, and I would never play Lifeboat.
It's a dishonorable mention.
Other ones in that rank would be things like Monopoly and other games that are just too easy to hit here. Right? Monopoly has destroyed marriages, not just friendships. Families have been sundered.
Why wouldn't you trade me Pennsylvania Avenue? I needed that to complete my set.
All right, so that is our top 10 list of games that will summon the darkest, deepest, meanest part of your soul and ruin friendships in honor of Ouija the movie.
Board Gamers Anonymous do not endorse any of these games or the destruction of your family and friends' relationships. These games are dangerous and should be only played with a trained professional like one of the Board Gamers Anonymous podcasts. So be careful out there.
Oh, yes, and playing Monopoly does summon demons, so you really want to...
They're just capitalistic demons. So.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of demon, but it's much more destructive in the long term.
Yes.
All right, so that's everything for our top 10 list this week. Next up, we have the final round with Drew.
Final round is all about Thanksgiving. I know it's a little early, but next week we're going to be doing a special about Black Friday, so we want to jump ahead about Thanksgiving. This feature, this particular final round, is not just about games, but about anything that we are thankful for, that we have in the gaming community, the gaming world, gaming life, whatever. I have in front of me this little thing called a 4-player game timer. With games that get heavier and heavier and AP that gets greater and greater, I love the concept of a timer, and these people at Pyramid created a way to time everyone's actions in a 4-player game to cut down on AP. I want to try it out in our games and maybe bring it to other game tables. God, this would make games so much more fun and speed them up. So I'm thankful that somebody invented that.
That's a good one, yeah. I mean, for me, I'm going to take the cheesy way out and say that I'm thankful for the people we play with. But, I mean, it's true, though, too. Like, when I moved to New York, I didn't know anybody here. I'd been here for a few years and didn't really have a whole lot of friends because it's hard to make friends in New York. Everybody who has an interest is, like, hardcore in their interests. That's like a New Yorker thing. I don't know, like, if you do something here, do it all the way. And so it wasn't until I found Myriad and the crew here that I kind of found that community for myself. So it's been nice. It's given me something to do, but also people to spend time with. And so That's what I'm thankful for.
Well, you kind of took mine. I was going to say I'm thankful for you guys. Because it's the easiest way out. Right?
But now you have to explain exactly what qualities about us make you thankful.
Well, it's nice to have a group of good friends who I can play games with, but not just play games with, right? I mean, we hang out, we have fun, we talk about life, right? We are actually friends, not just gaming cohorts, right? It's not just we meet once a week and play a game and then don't talk about anything but games and leave, right? Having a group of friends with whom I can play games, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I think for me there's so much to be thankful for, and especially around this industry, the publishers, designers, the fellow podcasters, but especially you, the listeners. It's an outstanding and it's a blessing that you would take the time to listen to this podcast. And I know, speaking for everyone here, each and every one of us do appreciate greatly the opportunity to spend this time with you on a hobby that we love so greatly, and the opportunity to expand this hobby to such a large and variety of different people in a positive social function that it brings people closer, it kind of expands ideas and imaginations, and it offers opportunities to have conversations about things that you never thought was possible. So thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for promoting not just our podcast, but the industry to so many different people, to bring such joy and family, not just to people you're related to, but everybody who sits down at the table with us.
Definitely. And thank you guys for making me look like a fool for thanking a game timer. But I'm sticking by it.
We know how you really feel, Drew.
That's what we're thankful for this Thanksgiving. That's our final round.
All right, so that's everything for this week's episode. Once again, please make sure to connect with us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at BGA Podcast. And hey, while you're online, why don't you hop over to iTunes and give us 5 stars? It'd be awesome. Get us out there to more people and just show us what you really feel. Show what you're thankful for in the podcast. And of course, BoardGamersAnonymous.com, Board Game Geek. You can find us there. And check out Chris's podcast, Kicking the Habit, on Wednesday.
And don't forget to try to summon us through your Ouija boards.
Yeah, exactly.
We're literally available everywhere.
All right, guys. That's everything for this week. This is Anthony.
This is Chris.
This is Daniel.
This is Drew.
And until next time, we'll save you a seat at the table with the giant red target there, because honestly, we're playing a game together, and I think you should be the one that's eliminated. What do you think, Anthony? He's, that listener that's listening.
Yeah, he's got to come in. He's like 2 levels ahead, 2 more cards that he could win. I think it's kind of taking him down.
I mean, they're always winning, and they're clearly winning in this game. I'm voting for them.